So hello and welcome to Early Days of Ethereum. I am delighted today to be joined by Fabian Vogelsteller. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Vogelsteller, more with an F. The V is more like an F, but
yes, right.
It's
Very
fine.
Very Germanic pronunciation that's not going to come out of my mouth. So, great to see you. We saw each other at DevConnect in November, I think, for the first time for quite a while, and had a good catch up there. But hello. So
hey, yeah.
So tell me, like, what were you doing prior to wandering into blockchain world?
So okay, let's start from the beginning. Okay. So what I was doing before blockchain, I was actually a web developer. So I started out as, I built websites since I was 14. My Feindura, the name that I have on Twitter, is actually the name of the content management system that I built, I think, in 2005. And it just happened to be, turning into my second identity. So I have two identities in the internet, Frozeman and Feindura. It's all just connected to two things. In GitHub, I'm Frozeman, and that's also my GitHub history with Ethereum and so on. And Feindura is then my online one. I basically, was always interested in the cutting edge of like the cool internet stuff in the 90s, building in the first 2000s, my first websites, or 1990, whatever, 8, 9, following the whole evolution of the internet with HTML, CSS, HTML1 and 2, and CSS 1 and 2, and JavaScript then coming in, and blah, blah, blah. So I mainly did web development, but I studied media design. So I didn't study anything with coding. All the coding is autodidactically learned. So I haven't, there's nothing that came from honestly, even when I joined Ethereum, I had no fucking clue about bytes and how to manipulate bytes and stuff. Still don't have, actually. I still don't know.
You didn't have your computer science background.
I don't have any computer science background. I'm not sure I don't know what I'm doing on the computer. I just know how to interact with like high level languages, and now I only know how to speak to AI and to my team.
That's all you need.
Things changed.
And you wrote a book?
I wrote a book about Meteor.js. I got really obviously into web development. I did a lot of websites and built a lot of things. I built my own content management system in PHP, and I built a flat file based content management system. So that means that this doesn't need a database. The whole idea was, okay, I just want to have one of these FTP, PHP ready servers. And if I want to move it was literally all about the independence of hosting providers, right? If I want to move from this hosting provider to the other, back in the day, migrating databases was a nightmare, and probably still is a nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
So the idea was, if I build a flat file based thing, you just copy the whole folder structure over to the other server and it works. And it did. So that was what the Feindura.org CMS does and did. Obviously, who uses a PHP today? But Facebook does. No, now I have a bunch of haters in the PHP community. I built that thing, and that was really like helping me like to kind of like do a full project front to end. And then I got more into JavaScript, and I got really excited by Meteor.js, which was one of the first reactive JavaScript frameworks. That was before Angular, before React. And it was the first time where you just could write like this JavaScript code and this HTML stuff. And when you update stuff in the JavaScript or in your local state, like the HTML got re-rendered natively, super magic. So I got really into this, and I wrote a book about it. I have it here. If you ever want to, I would never read a tutorial book to be honest. But I wrote one.
I don't think people even read books anymore.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would never even, it was so much fucking work to do this. And the reason why I did is because they reached out to me and I thought like, yeah, I could do that. And then, Marjorie, my ex-wife back in the day, encouraged me and I thought like, okay, why not? And on the end, it was a lot of work. I mean, literally like 4 months of waking up, and I had a kid, 2-year-old kid at the time. And I had to wake up very early, or maybe a year old, I don't remember. And I had to wake up very early at 5 to, write 1 or 2, 3 pages or 5 pages, whatever, and then go to work. It was intense. You get an hourly rate of like 10 cents. So it made totally no money. I literally probably made like exactly like 10 cents per hour or something like this.
Right.
But it's reputation. And in a way, I think that also what got me into Ethereum. Because what is this? Writing single page apps with Meteor. And what is a D app? It's a single page app. It's the whole point. Right. It's an app that literally runs in your browser, doesn't require a backend. And I built actually a tool that allowed you to strip out the server part of the Meteor app, so you can bundle it as a local app. It's actually it was quite a popular repository called Meteor Build Client. And yeah, that's what I used for D apps in the early days in Ethereum too.
Is Meteor still an active project? Is anyone using Meteor still?
Yeah, no, I totally think so. I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how frequent they are. Yeah, I haven't checked it out in a long time.
No, but I mean, it's quite a revolution at the time, the single page app.
It was the first, it was literally like, it was one of the first, it was the first framework that I know that really was a proper framework. And it's just solved the whole thing from account creation to reactive DOM updates to server client synchronization. It was magic. Yeah, it blew a lot of people away. And then all the other React and so on were kind of more like answers to this. And then React brought it back to the weird way of mixing code and UI in the same files, which I already found very bad in PHP times.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I guess you maybe sort of found your way into Bitcoin world in some form?
2013, I heard about Canadian wants to sell house in Bitcoin. And I thought, okay, wow. What's that? Like somebody's selling a house in a currency I've never heard of. And that really led me very quickly down the rabbit hole of this was 2013 March. That was literally when Bitcoin hit $200 in that very same month. And number one, I saw, okay, there's money to be made here. And I was a student with no money. So like, trying, like, then you have your hope, like, okay, maybe I can make a little bit of money on the side this way. But I really quickly understood the fundamental power of this technology. And it took me like about a year to really understand how it works fully. I mean, I literally had this epiphany every month that I thought like now I know how it works. That's how it works. It took me a year to really construe my brain, knowing servers and frameworks, and how this basic stuff works. And then the crypto blockchain stuff was just so out there in the way how this stuff works. But yeah, so I was in the space, and then in 2000 and obviously, right after I joined the Bitcoin community, then there was the first altcoin, Litecoin, and then in 2013 there was a lot of like projects that were created trying to imitate Bitcoin or do an improvement or do alternate versions. I also got really into Mastercoin, the idea of just writing onto the Bitcoin blockchain rather than creating a separate blockchain.
Right. And you were in Berlin, right? Were you going to meetups, or like did you find fellow?
I was just online. There were no meetups at the time, really, like not in my region. So what actually happened in 2000 so they were done later, 2014, there were then some meetups. And so I heard about Ethereum. I really knew that I just felt immediately that this is a really powerful approach, but it also sounded so unrealistic. So when I heard like this, I mean, I looked at the white paper. I never really read the Ethereum white paper actually ever fully. I just literally just like, I skimmed over it and I listened to Vitalik and or like the early things that were floating around, and I knew this is it. The idea of making this a computation machine on the blockchain makes total sense. I just thought it's so hard to do, and I didn't really give it a lot of chances of that they pull this off, but then they pulled it off pretty quickly. And it just happened so that I was at a meetup in Berlin, a Bitcoin meetup. I think the first one I was ever at.
Right.
They wanted to open a Bitcoin Center Berlin. Co-working space, basically.
Can you remember what kind of month that might have been?
That was I think it was August 2024. It was literally like a week before the Ethereum pre-sale started.
Right.
Like literally like days before. So I met these guys from Ethereum. In this case was Aaron, who did the accounting at the time. Yeah. And they told me that they are going to open an office in Berlin. And that there's some kind of news coming out next week, but they can't tell me. And I was already following Ethereum. I was already waiting for the ICO. Then it happened. So I took all my Bitcoin that I had at the time, which was 12 Bitcoins, converted them into Ether. I mean, people think like, oh my God, 12 Bitcoins, but they were like $600 worth or whatever. It was like literally not much. I put them all into Ether, or pretty much everything. And I knew this is going to be big. I felt it. And this was also the first time a project where I thought I would love to work for this project, because it's not about finance, money, and wallets, because every Bitcoin startup at the time was just about creating a wallet. And I was really not interested in creating wallets. And so it just happened that the same, like 6 months later, Bitcoin happened, ICO happened, attention came, blah, blah, blah. I just got an email from a recruiter saying the company Ethereum is looking for a C++ developer. And I was not a C++ developer. Recruiters don't check anything on LinkedIn, I guess, or GitHub. But I knew that they're now looking. So I went to their office and I just chatted with Aaron again. And I saw they had this office here, Waldemarstraße. And I realized that, okay, like actually, they really just thinking that they're going to build the nodes and then like people will build on top of the stack. And I just knew, like I know how to build single batch apps. This is what you need. I knew this is what they will need to make sure to show what a DApp can be and show how to. I just felt it, and so I said like Aaron, just can I showed him this as well, and just ask around internally, and they had one Skype group that was kind of like the Discord group at the time, and funny enough, Alex van der Sande is the one who came on board as the UX designer also just a month before me, and he had this whole idea of like creating this Mist browser concept. And I think when Alex heard about that there's this guy that came up here that can build single page apps, blah, 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 then Alex thought, oh, that could be the person who can help with building the Mist browser. So he convinced Jeff. I mean, that's my assumption what happened. And he tried to call me up, and I was in Turkey on holiday, so I didn't pick up the phone. And then when I came back, I saw someone who called me up, and somehow I think I called him back or whatever. And he said, hey, you want to work here? We want to do this and la 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 la. And
this was Aaron that you were talking to again?
No, this was Alex.
Oh, Afsa. Yeah.
So I was talking to Afsa. So Afsa wanted to have me because I think he probably convinced Jeff, because he saw this is a guy who can help build his idea, right? And Jeffrey was kind of skeptical of hiring anyone. This is not a Go developer. What the fuck can he do? I guess that's what he thought. Probably. What, JavaScript? cannot work.
So I mean, you started in I think it was January 2015. So I guess this discussion would have been in like December 2014-ish.
Yeah, that was December, exactly. Yeah. That was mid of December. I was on holidays. He tried to call me, and he said, "Hey, can you start?" And ask, when to start. And he said, "Yeah, start in January." And Jeffrey obviously really wanted to prove me, so he thought, "Okay, let me just throw a really complicated task at him, and then we will fail anyway, and we can get over with this whole thing." I think that's what Jeffrey thought. So he said, "Okay, build a chat app for the Whisper protocol." So in Ethereum, there was the Web3, right? The idea of Web3 was the network, storage, the Swarm storage, and communication, the Whisper. Which, by the way, I only figured out later that Web3 means exactly these three things. Fun fact. I always thought it's like, sure, Web2, we go to Web3. But that was actually the three.
Probably pieces. Both, right? It's kind of a bit of a joke that you've got both. And I was just looking, so it was November that Alex had done his missed concept presentation. So I guess that was really quite fresh. It's like, okay, here's kind of the thought.
So he had the idea, and then they were working on it already early December, and I forgot his name, but the guy the French guy who then worked on Remix. I'm sorry, I forgot his name.
Yann Levereux.
Exactly. So Yann actually built an early version of the Mist browser, but I think in C or something like this. And what's
Eth browser? I think there was one called Eth browser.
Maybe it was really early kind of Mist. It was barely working, and obviously the whole DEP connection stuff was not figured out properly yet. And they just really realized quickly that this is not the way to go, and that's why maybe Alex saw an opportunity here with this JavaScript dude showing up with the single page app book or whatever.
Right. I mean, you'd had Aleph 0 as well, right? I guess that was the very first GUI thing. Maybe that's what you were thinking of with Yann.
Maybe Aleph 0 was
and that was like the really ugly programmer tool, kind of like million control.
Yeah, I think Aleph 0 was that early Mist browser. Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jeffrey said, like, hey, let the guy build, like a chat app in the Whisper protocol. So I got dropped into this, novel tech, no documentation, no idea how the shit works. And I was supposed to build a whole chat app using this protocol. And that was kind of crazy. But because I really knew how to build, single page apps that like are reactive, and I could work with Yann actually on, he gave me just the endpoints that I need to use to get the account and to do the sending the messages and stuff like this. I pulled it off and built like a chat app. And the first time we met in March or April, all together in Amsterdam, we all used the Whisper chat app to talk to each other, encrypted chat messaging, including groups, including I added topics. So in a channel, you could basically say, I want to talk about a certain topic, and then you could filter by the topic. So you could see all messages, or you could say, I want to only see this or that topic. And it's the same like threads in Discord, by the way. So I basically made the thread concept of Discord in this tiny app.
Right. And
it worked. And you were connected with your wallet, that was in your node, in your Geth stored. And I think, Jeffrey was quite impressed. And that kind of gave him some confidence that I can do it, even though he was trying to, prove me wrong or prove himself right that this is not going to work. And what's crazy is we literally built the Mist browser in like 3 months. We built the first working version, and we released it with the mainnet. We released the Ethereum Wallet. That was July 31st, 2015. So basically 7 months later, we released the first Mist browser version. And it was so crazy because everything needed to be figured out. I needed to learn how this stuff works. And initially, in the first 2 months, it felt literally impossible. And I felt like there's no way I'm going to figure this shit out. Like, there's no way. There was no documentation. It was completely over my head in terms of complexity and shit that I didn't understand at all. But I pulled it off. And And I had to, like, obviously there were people around me that I could talk to, but everybody was also so busy and had to like figure out their own thing, because everything had to be figured out at the time. But I had to literally touch every point. I had to, work with the RPC API. And then I saw this thing was kind of messy, sometimes it was returning hex, sometimes it was not returning. So I had to basically, I thought I'm a Virgo. So I immediately tried to fix things and make them proper. So I basically immediately, wanted to make sure this is proper, because when we launch the nodes, this stuff can't change anymore, because now once we start mainnet, you don't want to constantly like make devs stuff unworkable. So I had to fight with Gavin to fix and change the endpoints, and that was quite already like a little bit of a uphill battle, let's say. And then I had to get into Web3.js, which Marek was working on, which was a JavaScript library that I think Gavin and Jeffrey started. And then I had to help with him or work together with him initially. And then I really contributed to Web3.js, because we had to build that into the Mist browser directly. So I was literally the first user of that library and really contributed to that library as well.
Right.
So we had to make everything up. The whole foundational stack of Ethereum we made up in this like first few months. And because I built the piece that put it all together, like the node, the DApps, the Web3.js, the RPC endpoint, everything into one app, I had to literally touch everything. And I had to go to talk to everybody. That was quite challenging, not gonna lie. And I also realized that Jeffrey's team and Gavin's team was a little disconnected, and they tried to there was a little like battle and war going on where everybody wanted to be the one who determines which feature and how. And I just realized, guys, if we are doing like this, that shit's going nowhere, if we don't work together, and it would be too complicated, too much iterations. So I tried to make the team talk, these two teams. But Jeffrey's team, I was part of Jeffrey's team. We were a little bit more open, at least how I felt to be. Gavin really wanted to kind of keep everybody under a bucket, and he didn't want that we talked to this team. But I kind of found back LA ways and back channels to make them sync up. I guess Gavin didn't like that. But it was really needed, so that eventually there was more starting to work more together. And had to do a lot of connecting, hand-holding, because I was in this crazy position of being hired by the Amsterdam team while sitting in the office of Gavin of the Berlin C++ team. So I was in teams at the same time as the only person. So I was the connector, I was the translator and the connector basically. And I had to deal with all the pieces. So I had to deal with, the C++ client equally had to work in as a client in the Mist browser as the Go client. So I had to talk to people when something was not working. And this crazy how much happened in this first 6 months before the network started. I mean, equally on the network side, right? Like there was so much just being built and done at the time. But the whole DApp tech stack was literally made up in this moment, in this time.
I was just looking at the timeline. So September the 16th, 2015 is when the first developer preview of Mist went live. Saying about with the two teams, I guess you were sort of in the position of being the very first person, like building one layer up. I guess all of the prior efforts were just about the clients and, and making features available on the clients, but not really by building things on top, and specifically not building things on top to try and be able to work with either. So those interface issues and...
to be fair, the first DApps probably were built by Gavin and Jeffrey, but they used all the clunky half-ass stuff.
They're only on their own stack, right?
And then only on their own stack. I built the first #1 DApp browser, like literally generic tool that can run any JavaScript app to connect to the blockchain. And I built with Alex the Ethereum Wallet, which was the first ever DApp on Ethereum, like proper, done, designed, cross-client functional thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we did. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all of that prior stuff, it was just really on their own stack.
A little JavaScript page talking to their own endpoints. Yes.
Right. I mean, and looking through old videos, there was one which I think was a talk in London where both Jeff and Gav were sort of talking about the state of Ethereum and demonstrating some things. So this was October 2014. And one of the demos that they had was one of probably the first on-chain DEX. So you'd got Gav Coin and Jeff Coin. This is prior to any standards, I guess. And Gav Coin was written in LLL and Jeff Coin was written in Mutan. But they did do an on-chain DEX order book thing. And, so putting a transaction for like an offer, like CPU mining, picking that up. So, you had got that interop and I guess maybe some of the Whisper stuff was maybe kind of cross-client, but you haven't really got the UI layer.
So for the chat app, I mainly used the Go client because the Whisper thing on the C++ side was not fully integrated or working.
Right.
The initial idea was that the Ethereum client will host all three things: Swarm, Whisper, and the network.
Yeah.
Obviously, that Swarm never really worked in there, and neither Whisper, which then later got overtaken and supported by Status, and now it's transferred into a whole different protocol. It's interesting. I mean, this was really like foundational times, and I think what people really often misunderstand is how much, number one, Ethereum was generic from day one. Number two, how many ideas were already present early on. If you watch the Miss Browser video from Alex, we haven't even built half of the stuff that's in that video, and in fact a lot of these foundations are missing. And for example, now I'm working on universal profiles across a smart contract account system, and that's even in the video already in there. You don't see wallets, you see profiles, you see people doing stuff, and only now, literally 10 plus years later, we now have the foundation, and it's not even widely used yet. That even makes that Miss video more realistic. And it's not that Alex came up with all of these ideas. This is just what was around at the time. Even right after Bitcoin got attention in 2013 and 2010, these ideas were already around. How can you build decentralized Uber and decentralized this and decentralized that and DEX and whatever. And it's just people think this stuff came all in 2017, 2020, and this is somehow like an invention of the Ethereum Foundation making shit up, this stuff is all it has been around for ages.
Absolutely.
We are just really kind of behind when it comes to this stuff, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you had that sort of cryptocurrency 2.0 phase at the start there, talking about Mastercoin and things, I guess there was a thought that, everything will get built on Bitcoin, that was the initial thing. And yes, you've got these altcoins and experiments and other things, and, they'll all kind of come back together. Or even, prior to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin itself was just sort of a manifestation of digital cash streams that had gone back for decades with the cypherpunks. And then you'd got things like BitTorrent. You did have decentralized messaging things.
And email and so on. Yes. It's basically, it's interesting. Back in the day, it was all Reddit, right? Bitcoin, today it's crypto Twitter. Back in the day, it was Bitcoin Reddit, or Reddit our Bitcoin. And Ethereum was the first kind of real challenger to the status quo. And it split the community into the Bitcoin maximalists, the camp that says, no, we only need Bitcoin. Why the heck you want any other chain? And then the people, and even if my friends circles, and the friends developers some literally never made the move. They never looked into Ethereum's tech just because they felt that, what do you care? Bitcoin's all you need. And I just visited a Bitcoin meetup recently, and I was so taken back because it was like walking into like, some kind of like a time portal back into the time, 10 years back, same discussions, same problems, same people, same size of groups. And you're suddenly back in some kind of time capsule of the past where the topics they talk about is just like, minor this, minor that, and basic stuff of that has been figured out like 100 times already on Ethereum, like being full and present discussions here. And very few developers, which is also very impressive. Like how such a network that has so much attention and so much money in it, literally just is developed by 100 people, and maybe not even.
Well, I mean, speaking for myself, I was aware of Bitcoin for a good number of years before I had sort of any involvement in the crypto space. But there were sort of two reasons, I guess, I wasn't interested, or maybe three, which was, firstly, I was a gold bug, and I was a software engineer, and I know how terrible most software is. So like some dude you've never heard of has made like magic internet money, like, come on. But I think more importantly, it was just kind of boring to me because, okay, you can do payments. Okay, well, there you go. Well, that's not very interesting versus here's a platform and you can build apps. That was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And, maybe you had a fairly similar.
I mean, for me, the money part was, I mean, obviously it's cool, like to invest in something that like, feel as going up and it makes the money. And obviously I had no money as a student here. My parents are not rich or anything. But it's just like, it was just so powerful, the idea that there is a technology that no one can control, that sits above the law, that sits above the influence of humans, because you can't break a system that's based on consensus, and like a Hydra has 100,000 heads. And it's just really, it was fascinating. Yeah. No, I was really, I mean, I'm still am, here I am building still on this tech, super pumped about the next phase of this whole technology. But I just never thought it would take that long, to be honest.
No. So, I mean, you were working from the Berlin office, but presumably you were back and forth to Amsterdam sometimes.
Rarely. I mean, the Amsterdam office, we were there maybe like twice or so. Like on the end, the Amsterdam office was really more like a legal hub. And there was obviously Jeffrey and the operations person assistant that he had. And like we were all over the place. So I worked with Alex mainly, who was literally 3 or 5 hours ahead behind in Brazil, in Rio. Later, we hired multiple people. We hired another person from Rio. Actually, we hired 2 other persons from Rio. At some point, we were 3 people in the team, 4 people in the team even, if I remember at the peak. But then I also worked on Web3.js. So I worked with Marek closely, who was in the Berlin office. I talked and worked with Christian a lot, who worked on Solidity, was also in the Berlin office, and obviously Jan and the other girl that worked on the remix, Lefteris, was sitting across me in the Berlin office. Christoph Jensch came to the Berlin office frequently. So the guy, right? But he was more like hired as a kind of contractor to do testing scenarios for the nodes. So he wrote all these kind of tests to test all kind of inputs and outputs of or whatever node behavior. I don't remember exactly. Cross-client, make sure this all like functions correctly. And at the same time, the Ethereum Hub, I call it the Ethereum Hub. It was never meant to be a hub, but it functioned as the main go-to place. If you want to visit Ethereum, the Berlin office was the place. There was the most people there, and it just really also happened that just people showed up. So Dominic Williams just showed up before he made ATP. people that I met that like really became friends. Gustav, who built the key manager implementation in Go Ethereum. Felix, the guy who builds still today the network layer, he was also in the office in Berlin, literally lived across.
Right, yeah.
And there's a lot of, it was like a hub. And I was one of the more social developers inside the group. So when somebody walked into the office, it was mostly kind of me talking to that person, because the others just like behaved like they didn't know what to do. Like they just literally like didn't, and there was no secretary person or anything really. So I just talked to most of the people. And I also, what I was working on, working on the front end, working on the developer stack, I was kind of like a little bit like, on the layer to the outside compared to the people working on the protocols in the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So that also kind of reflected socially.
Right. So you missed out on DEVCON 0 because you started just after that. But you will have been to London for DEVCON 1 in November of 2015 then.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
And token standards were just kind of beginning. The EIP process was just starting. So, I guess that's sort of like phase 2, right? Is your first one is building a thing and touching everything, and then you're starting to get up to that, on-chain token layers. So how did all that kind of brew up?
So, the whole standardization for me started when Vitalik created the GitHub wiki page, because he wanted to standardize tokens, ENS kind of registry, and maybe an early version of a DEX, I don't remember. And he just like we had some discussion around the GitHub page, literally a GitHub docs page. And he made the early version of ERC20, and we debated a little bit on there on mainly like Skype and some comments on this page. And then London happened. And so what happened is, it's actually funny, because there was a panel, the panel about standardization. So I presented a lot of things there. I presented the Mist browser. Yeah, I think I presented the Mist browser, maybe something else. But I was also on this panel about standardization. And fun fact, we discussed, I watched it the other day, and we discussed, standards, and there was 2 main discussions. Oh, should we put metadata into the contract directly? In this case, the idea was, do we put the metadata of a token, like token name and symbol, into the contract, or do we create a registry for it?
Right.
And in a way, that's kind of also today still the big split. Do you put information into a registry like ENS, or do you put it into the user-owned contract itself? Or do you make a registry for AI, or do you put the metadata in the account of the AI itself? And it's going to be another discussion coming, fun enough. And we literally discussed this, and it's actually what's funny. When I looked at this, I literally said, they ask us, what are you interested in standardization? And I said, the account system. I called it proxy contract, because there was no notion of an account, but I called it the proxy contract. Was actually my main interest. Funny enough, I later created ERC 725 and now Universal Profiles as the fulfillment of that. But it's kind of funny that it was even sparked there already. I talked about key management at the time, and we didn't even propose ERC20. It's kind of
right.
But in this conversation, Martin BC before created the EIP repository, and I think Gavin or whatever mentioned, like, where do we do the standardization? And I think he mentioned in that very thing, yeah, we have the EIP repository, that would be the right place. And I think that inspired me in this moment, like, oh yeah, actually we could put it there. So that's when I then created the issue number 20. And I think I recalled it Ethereum request for comment because of the request for comment thing. I'm not sure. I came up with the name by myself, or whoever came up with the name, but I created the issue. and I formatted this whole discussion that we had there, like a current version in a proper specification, because I felt, number one, we need to involve the community. Like if you want to have a consensus around the token standard, right, everybody needs to listen and just have at least an insight. And second, it needs to be in a structured way where not everybody like randomly edits like this file. And this is actually the exact comment that Gavin made, funny enough. Editing, we all laughed about editing was on that one wiki file.
Yeah.
In a way, like I then structured the process through that and created ERC20 as a proposal. I made a few changes that like just like some file like some turning around like the transfer function, what's first value, blah 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 blah, or amount or whatever, and then we had a discussion, but we didn't really change much anymore. And yeah, so we discussed there around 60 people in total, 300 comments. But pretty much after quite a while already, everybody kind of felt more or less that this makes sense. There was the big discussions was around authorized operator or not, should we have it or not. I was kind of against it. So fun fact, when I create the first test coin, the Mist coin that I used then to test in the Mist browser, I did the authorized operator functions. Because I didn't like it. I really liked more the idea of informing recipients, but it was also too early to do that because we had no idea of the side effects of that.
Right.
So in my test coin, I just didn't add the authorized operator. I didn't see a need. Fun fact, later people picked up the Mist coin like as a collectible meme token, collectible coin. And because it was a real ERC20, but because it doesn't have the authorized operator function, it didn't work in Uniswap, so they wrapped it. And that's why it's now wrapped Mist coin, which is the wrapped real Mist coin inside a token that has the function to interact with DEX. But this was just a test token. It was never meant to. I just over the years gave a bunch of those to random people who asked me until like a whole group of people like really wanted to make this valuable. And now it's traded. I mean, now it has a market cap and people trade it, and it is what it is. I mean, it's the first ERC20. I mean, it's not the first. I think there was a preliminary version that Vitalik built before that was not very functional or standardized. And this was like the first one that kind of fit the spec, except the operator stuff.
There's a deployment of that out, which was launched, I believe, by RFICI, based on Vitalik's repo or what have you there. That's called Currency Coin, is what that one is called. But again, another they call these relic tokens, relic coins.
Yeah.
So, like I'm doing sort of human social history, there are people doing on-chain history of, what was the first instance of that. And
it's also the crazy thing is, this stuff is around, the transaction is around, the code is still around. It's like a relic, and it's like it's provable, the thing. And the fun fact is, I deployed that. I think a week before I actually proposed the ERC20 spec.
Right.
So I felt that we were kind of more or less, and it was probably around the time of this first DEVCON. We can even check if it was before this DEVCON or after, or I don't remember. Probably maybe a day or two before that I deployed that thing.
Yeah.
I think we also needed it for testing or showing something. I don't remember. I mean, we needed to test, like how could tokens work in there or whatever. But it's really, anyway, that's how it happened.
It may well have been for the DEVCON 1 demo for your presentation.
No, I mean, we did it for, so DEVCON did really push us a lot to get some features done and some things done. The token was not yet in there really, because the token thing was still kind of very out there. Also, no one really had, we all knew that people want to make tokens, and that's why kind of Vitalik started this, because I think he felt an urgency from the community. But it was not of anybody's mind that now tokens need to be a primary focus. It was just hey, if you want to do it, let's do it. The wallet was not really meant to immediately be super supportive of that. Except that I created the test coin for that. and we played around, but it was not an urgency. That just really didn't happen after this ERC20 then kicked off the ICO wave. And that's when everything went completely bananas.
And I mean, I'm guessing that, you know, that ERC20 standard, you had no idea that it would have so much sticking power.
No. I mean, no one could. I guess no one could. I mean, I knew people needed it. I knew it's going to be a thing that people will do, because already on Mastercoin before there was colored coins. Right?
Yeah.
The concept of creating other currencies on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, and they call it colored coins. So there was clearly a need for it, but I found the idea of just creating random tokens for random stuff kind of boring. Because for me, then it's like, okay, so now what is the value of this? You know, why would you create a token? And honestly, if you look back and if you look today, most tokens don't make fucking sense, right? Like there was so much unnecessary tokens that just make no sense and had no purpose. And I was always a big fan of like a native currency or native blockchain token, because that thing makes sense.
Yeah.
You remove it, the network doesn't work. There's no way you remove that token, at least right now, and the network still is functional and economically viable and secure. So, but with all the other tokens, that was not the case. Like, and most.
I guess it's just sort of like the simplest thing you could do. It's like, okay, well, what can you do? Well, hey, look, you can make new tokens. So there's no need to like make new, new chains and find new miners, right? You can just float it on Ethereum. And so it's like a simple thing, but it's like, okay, here's the very first sort of thing. It's not very interesting, but we've done something.
The thing is, like, what people don't really realize how much more we were thinking ahead of, like, hey, wow, we can do really cool, how we can really change society with this technology. That was actually more interesting to people working in Ethereum than thinking how to make a fucking token and how to like trade. Like the whole DEX DeFi stuff that mainly came from the outside too. It was other people that just saw an opportunity to make money or financial Lego, whatever. But internally, there were not a lot of people who got very excited about this, honestly. I mean, as far as I remember, or maybe that was at least my perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, DEVCON 1, I think, was
also then more speculation, right? And more speculation is not necessarily good, specifically in an environment in the early days where the regulatory insecurity and uncertainty was just so high. So the last thing we all wanted is now every eye is on us because we're trying to compete with banks. So I think it actually made us all a little uncomfortable. At least that's how I felt about it, and how I think other people saw it too. It's just the outside world like immediately jumped on it and like, yeah, money, and that was not the point of the technology in the first place, actually.
No. I mean, I sort of remember at the time thinking, that's one of the least interesting parts. It's like, okay, yeah, you can have that raw speculation, but it's like that's nothing new versus going, well, what are all these new things that we can build? And
exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, DEVCON 1, I think, was quite seminal in terms of like bringing together like most people for the first time. In the DEVCON 0 being this internal event, but DEVCON 1 was like the first public Ethereum conference. I sadly did not get to go. I could not afford to go. But what are your memories at that time? I mean, you must have seen so many things and so many people.
Yeah, so I have actually been I think I have been in every DEVCON so far, except 0, which was only 20 people in Berlin. And I was not at the DevConnect in Istanbul.
Right.
Apart from that, I was at every DevCon. I was always speaking at the first few DevCons, but then the moment I was not at the foundation anymore and doing another blockchain, then you're like, oh, outcast, and yeah, it is what it is. So even though the tech I'm building now and the tech I have been also building over the years is extremely relevant to Ethereum the ecosystem as well, but somehow also the people who picked them to talks and so on in the later years, right? They are fresh. Some of them literally don't even know the history. So that's why actually the work that you're doing is really important, because you're the archivist, of Ethereum, and you really like with that hold up the truth story and the participants and the contributions and make that visible and transparent to people. Because I have talked to so many people and they have barely any idea of what, like how Ethereum came to be, who contributed, who did what. It's like completely unknown. People just like, came in 2017 for ICOs, 2020 for ICOs and DeFi, 2022 for NFTs. And for them, Ethereum is just one chain. There's all the other chains and they do AMAs and Ethereum doesn't do AMAs. And it's like, it's all a big shit show, honestly. So it's good that the work that you're doing, like kind of because there's so many contributors that have not gotten the recognition that they deserve. I mean, Felix, for example, in my opinion, is a great example. That dude literally built and is building still the communication layer of the Ethereum network and how the nodes talk to each other. And he has done that without fame or attention for years. And
Felix Lang, sorry. Felix Lang?
Yeah, Felix Lang, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I spoke to him in Buenos Aires, and the funny thing is he's such a humble guy. He was saying to me, I really don't like early days of Ethereum. I don't want the attention. So I was saying to him, you're like the longest serving person at the EF, I think, after Vitalik, and he's like,
that's true.
But he's like, I'm just like a janitor. I just turn up and I maintain the thing, and I don't want any of that focus. I don't like any of that. It was just like a job for me. Like no.
Yeah, it was really great. I mean, Felix is specifically crazy, and I think there's a little self-punishment, but he didn't even buy any Ether, at all. So I literally, and because I thought like, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, this is likely, I knew this is going to go big, just because I knew this is such a revolutionary technology, and I couldn't barely afford any, but I thought the guy has none. He said, yeah, if I don't have a use for Ether, if I don't want to build an app, why would I need some? And I thought like, that's kind of stupid. I mean, because you're investing your energy and time here, like you should have at least some reward. And what people don't understand, most people that worked at Ethereum didn't care about the money or an investment. Neither did I. I mean, that was not the reason why we joined. We joined because it was truly, and it is truly a game-changing, revolutionary technology. But so what I did is I donated some to him, and I made everybody in the team donate some to him. So at least he got like, I don't know, 100 Ether or whatever. I don't know if he kept it or not. I mean, I guess he did. And I even made Jeffrey give some. And Jeffrey gave almost the same amount like us. I mean, we had barely any, but Jeffrey has a fuckload. It was so weird. Like, dude, Jeffrey, you can give a little more. I found that little schnauzer.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I literally forced him to his Ether, basically.
I mean, I think the thing that a lot of newer people, don't comprehend is how little that money or whatever was a motivation at all for many of the people. It was really about, well, what can you build and what can we, what can happen. There was no certainty whatsoever that it was even going to work. It was even going to launch, but it was even going to have any kind of, success. It was like, maybe this thing can happen. It would be great if it could. Like, let's try. But this
money was never money was never the intention of no one that I know. I mean, obviously some of us felt, that this can be big, but we had no idea. And at the same time, there was Bitcoin rising, and obviously, Bitcoin had a lot more traction, and Bitcoin was more of a safe bet. Ethereum was a complete gamble. And then when I donated this Ether, also people say, well, you gave him 100 Ether. I don't know how much he on the end got, but it was like, I don't know, the whole thing was $300 or $400. It was nothing. Like, it cost literally 40, 50, 60 cents. And like, It was not $3,000, nor $10, nor $20. No, it was literally nothing. It was a few $100s. And it was all, and we had all 10, 20 Ether on some wallets laying around just for building stuff. I hope I could find some of those again, but all these keys were ephemeral and some code base, maybe or maybe not, whatever. Nobody cared really, actually, to be honest. Not of the people who worked internally, but from the outside, they all thought we all just did it for making this thing, big and get rich. It was weird, the perception on the outside is sometimes really distorted.
Yeah, I mean, talking to that ICO and, that monetary speculation, I mean, I remember at the time, almost being sort of repulsed at that, that speculative thing. And especially the projection of that mindset onto the people that were actually building and saying, oh, you guys.
You're just doing this to grow it. Exactly. And
it's a free line, you're just giving yourself the money, it's just who needs smart contracts? It's all a scam. Look at you guys, and also I think the assumption, you're all massively rich.
I mean, it's so wrong.
Felix thing of not having any F. That was me as well. And the reason why is because I haven't got any money. I hadn't got I was impoverishing myself. Even being involved, I was just volunteering for a very long time, with nothing. And then even when I got hired at the foundation, I was getting paid $60K a year, which was half of what my prior salary had been. It was not.
And also, I mean, same for me. My salary at the foundation was $60K, and only towards the end, when we had a little bit of success, I negotiated it up to $90K, and and that was before tax. And same with the Ether. It's everybody thinks, if you got Ether back then, you must be insanely rich. It's dude, when that hit $10, we all thought we made it to the universe, and now you cash out a few $100,000 and you think you're super rich. Same with also some of the early people who had a lot more Ether. I mean, they cashed out 100,000 Ether for $1, right? Because they thought this is really high.
Yeah,
I mean, barely anybody that I know held it until it hit a few hundred and thousand of dollars. And people don't understand. They were 10 plus years, or now 10 years, and there were 5+ years passing with many ups and downs and bubbles.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, I have no Ether anymore since many, many years. I mean, I spent them all, and my ex-wife has a few more ideas of what you wanted to have it on, and then bought a house that now belongs to the parents of her, and stuff just went, and then obviously I'm working on LUKSO, and a lot of my money went all into supporting that now. So the idea that if I would have held everything that I had, sure, that would be a lot of money, but that means you literally not spending any money during all the years, and you only live with a salary. And second, you literally trust so much that this is going to be worth a lot, and it's impossible. Barely anyone. It's such a naive thinking. Honestly,
it's this sort of impossible fantasy of saying, assuming that you're going to sit and you're going to say, okay, it's 100x. No. It's 1,000x. No, keep going.
I know 10,000% is possible. I mean,
yes. Yeah. So, I mean, going back to DEVCON 1, I was looking at some of the videos recently, and it's pretty much any idea you could ever imagine seemed to be presented there. I mean, did you see most of the presentations?
I mean, this is the thing. Most people don't understand. This shit that people talk about right now is not being made up now. That stuff has been made up before, tried before. For example, Base launched the feed that they now cut off again, right? Where you have a post and then people bet on this. I mean, Steam it did that 4 years ago, and at least they did it smart because it wasn't a Reddit style feature.
Yeah.
Where Reddit posts stay longer, right? They have more value over time, while posts that literally disappear after scrolling a page, it's not worth betting on them. That's fucking scamming people, right? It's none of that stuff we see is new, and what is fascinating to me is that the space today is still built more or less on the same foundations. On the base, if you go to the bottom of the bottom, it's the same foundations that we literally made up in the first 6 months and the first year of Ethereum. It's same provider. Now there's a bit of different way how it's injected. Same provider, how the app connects to the node. Same RPC endpoints. Pretty much not too much added here either. EOAs have been the default since back then. And fun fact, Jeffrey told me, you guys should not expose the public key or the public key, the EOA, to the user. You should use a smart contract account. And that stuck with me, and he was right. But it was so early with no idea. I mean, we tried to barely figure out how to make any transaction work for that matter. And I now think about routing this through a smart contract. That was just absurd. But he was right. And now in all these years, that's what I built. Now I built exactly that kind of foundation that we discussed back in the day and that we wanted back in the day. But it took all of this learning and all of this. And in fact, it also took me stepping out of the Ethereum ecosystem, creating a different standards track in order to even do that. Because when you just do that in this existing ecosystem with the existing standards debates, it's just so slow, and you need to be backwards compatible. You need to think in ways that you just move the current wagon along, because if you want to make radical changes, you have so many people that will just try to either intervene or move it around and shift around, and it goes nowhere. So I needed to do that in a kind of different approach. Kind of funny enough, I kind of coined the ERC, request for comment standard space, to then go off and create the LUKSO standards proposals and do it there, even though that's just Ethereum standards too, just so that I could do it right. And it's going to show. That video will be obviously on the internet. So let's see in a few months, in a year from now, and it will show that that was the necessary approach to evolve.
Really. Yeah. So I mean, you were at the EF working on Mist through to 2017. So
no, August 2018.
2008.
So, 2018.
18. So I mean, what further work happened in this between that very first release and the sunsetting? I mean, what was that further evolution into?
Yeah, so my work was not only in the Mist browser. So I actually worked for 3.5 years at Ethereum, and then in the later years, I really started working more on the developer tools. I mean, I overtook Web3.js, which was the main JavaScript library at the time. When Marek left with Gavin to join Parity or ETHCore, I overtook Web3.js, so that I mainly maintained this library. I built the Web 2, the 2.0 version of it. That was the last thing I did before I left.
Right.
Releasing the 2.0 version of that app or that library. And I kind of in the last year, I stepped a little out of the Mist team. I mean, I was just focused on the other things more, but I was still like, kind of the main developer in Mist, but now there was more maintenance. The thing is, we really tried to create more of the Mist browser. It was quite complicated because we were always lacking behind Chromium and Electron.js. So Electron.js used Chromium is what we then used. And so if there was a bug or something like this in Chromium, it needed to first be supported by Electron.js before we could support this. So there was quite a cycle. We worked a lot on the interface. On the end, like the Ethereum Wallet, or people called it the Mist Wallet, was basically the main thing ever really used. People never really fully used it as a Web3 browser, but we built all kind of features in there. I built things in there that an app could set notifications on the sidebar. And so there's a lot of features that we added to the browser that were never really fully used, just because the biggest problem for the Mist browser, and in a way, the death of the Mist browser was the slow syncing of the Ethereum nodes.
Yeah.
And because we wanted to do it the full decentralized way, we didn't just want to talk to a backend node that someone hosted. And also, the Ethereum Foundation probably wouldn't have paid for a node hosted on a server for everyone else to connect to. So
I completely believe that. There was so much creeping out on costs.
It would have been so easy to, instead of talking to the local host node, to talk to a remote node. I mean, I could have added that feature in no time. The reason, because we didn't do this, because it really just went against the whole idea of really doing it decentralized. The only problem is that then after 6, 7, 8 months, syncing the Mist browser, if you didn't have it open for a week, took sometimes half an hour and plus. So what happened is MetaMask, came up, Kumavis came up with the idea, okay, I build a browser extension connected to a remote node, and I do a light version of MetaMask, and I just inject it into an existing browser. And that idea won. So MetaMask kind of like, in a way, outcompeted the Mist browser. And then on top of this, the difficulties of keeping it secure is on the end what made us shut it down. But that we had a lot more ideas. I mean, look at the video. Like we hadn't even really started playing out the idea of the Mist browser fully. But at the time, it was just not. It was not the right time. But it really showed a lot of people how things can be done, why to do it this way, how to build the apps, how to it set the stage basically.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that, local node, full decentralization. I mean, I remember as well thinking, yeah, of course that's going to happen, right? Of course you're going to, like, everyone's going to have an Ethereum node running like on every device. It'll be like, yeah, you'll have one running in the background on your phone. They'll be in like every router, media station, like every computer.
I mean, also there was the idea of the light clients, and we knew there were light clients coming, and we really bet on the fact that the light client will solve that problem.
Yeah.
The only problem is the light client never came, or it came, but it was not cross-client, and it didn't really fully work. So we hoped a lot on the light client. This was why we kept doing it this way, because the idea was once you have the light client,
right,
the things like this.
Yeah. So we'll just build on the full node for now, and then that light client will come in.
Once the light client comes, and I think we actually came that far. I mean, I think there was versions of the Mist browser that had Geth built in with light client support that synced very fast. But at the time, by this time, people already really moved on to MetaMask, and again, security and other reasons on the end like made us kind of like give up. But I already moved on to Web3.js at the time, mainly with my focus, because that was a needed tool. Everybody was using it. I mean, 70 million, 140 million downloads, or God knows what it has nowadays. It's still used, download a lot, even though now VM and others took over. And then at some point it was only mainly like then, when I left, then at some point Alex shut it down for the reasons, also because, I mean, it had its purpose,
Yeah.
And by the way, the idea of the Mist browser is still a very valid idea, and in fact, what I'm building now is it's like a Mist browser mobile, which is actually interesting, because what I'm building now is almost like a full circle.
Yeah.
So I introduced a smart contract account, the same like Jeffrey said we should do it. That's the foundation of your access to Web3. And then you have a web browser in an app that allows you to interact with the apps easily, while doing it in a human-focused way, so not wallet-focused way, but profile-focused way, safe way, easy gas payment in a way that it like literally works for humans. Which was also, by the way, the idea of the Mist browser. It was not to be meant for nerds and techies. It was meant to be normal people interacting with this new technology, right? That was the whole point. And this is going to come now with the Universal Profile app as kind of like a Mist browser on mobile in its first version.
Yeah, I mean, the goal being not just to sort of replicate existing applications, but on the blockchain, but to enable these things that like weren't possible before, right? Having this hub integrating all of these different pieces of your life that was like real utility.
Exactly. And what's actually interesting, and that's really for me the most surprising thing, is we are 10 plus years into Ethereum.
Yeah.
And there's so many networks, EVM apps. The most ones are very financial focused, which is also something that really turned me then off. So the moment DeFi happened, I thought like, that's just a big gamble park. I mean, it's important protocols. They're really important, but it just became such a gamble park and casino that was just really turning me off. But what's interesting is we go to conferences. We go to any place you can go in the world and you meet Web3 people and no one is using Web3 apps. Like literally. Like you have some, obviously people have wallets and maybe they're purchasing a coin here and there, but the more like interacting with actual apps, like voting on something, joining a community, giving reputation, doing all the things you could do on chain, it doesn't happen. And honestly, that for me is something I would never have thought. If somebody would have told me in 2015 or 16 or 17 that in 10 years, there's still no actual users using the apps, I would have thought like, number one, if that happens, it's a total fail.
Yeah.
And number two, there's no way this is true. Like that. What are the chances? And here we are. It's fucking crazy.
I remember in 2018, I went to the Consensus conference, like the Consensus, not Consensus, conference in New York. So New York Blockchain Week. And there was a panel there that was sort of almost like a Bitcoin versus Ethereum thing. And you had Jimmy Song, the fucking dickhead with his cowboy hat. And you had Joe Lubin. And Jimmy was basically saying, like Dapps are, useless. Smart contracts are useless. Like nobody's going to be like using these in 5 years. And like him and Joe having a bet, for a pretty significant amount of Bitcoin. I can't remember what it ended up being in the end. And I don't know what, that then they were like talking about the terms. It was this crypto Twitter ongoing discussion of, is this,
luckily he didn't like propose to cut off his penis.
Yes. It's not McAfee, but yeah, it's disappointing. That's for sure. DeFi is working. Stable coins are being used.
The whole financial Lego works, yes, but only with the people that went through the hoops. And now, obviously, you have Robinhood and all of the other apps that integrate and make it more easy. So the whole trading part, sure, that worked out. Like people buying, selling, and there's a big. But the normal user using Web3 infrastructure in their daily lives, non-existent. Fucking existent. And I, for myself, I know why. And I spent the last 7 years just thinking about that and how to solve that. Like literally, this is what.
Again. So yeah. Why don't? Could you tell me a bit about how you came to leave the EF and what like your motivation was and what did you do and what have you been doing?
So, well, actually, I mean, I was in a way in a good place. I worked on Web3.js. The developers loved me because I built their foundational piece. The Mist browser was, kind of a bit fading out, but was cool too. I was kind of in a good place, but so actually, what happened is my ex-wife at the time, she had this idea of, hey, let's do something fashion, lifestyle on the blockchain. And I thought that sounds super boring. And also I know that there's so many people who already try to do something like this. But then I thought a bit about it and thought like, but we can use lifestyle and fashion, specifically when you get big players in and like mainstream normal users through these brands and whatever, and we can get mainstream people, normal people into using this technology. That could be the Trojan horse of how we make this technology attractive and interesting to people outside of the trading. So I thought, actually, this is kind of genius. But it also sounded like a lunatic, crazy idea and completely out of my league. So initially I thought, okay, I can support Marjorie a little bit. You know, she does the project. I can help a little bit and advice, and she like does it. At the same time, I worked for 3.5 years at Ethereum. You know, I mean, I did all the foundation work I needed to do. I felt, okay, I did everything I can do here. I can now continue here for another 10 years, but I don't think I'm gaining a lot more, you know, from this point on. And in hindsight, I'm right, because when I look at others that's still there, I mean, it's not that the world changed for them, you know, in terms of what they're working on. It's just the same things. And then at some point, you know, when we started, you know, pitching out the project or like pitching, ideating the project and mapping out, at some point, just Marjorie kind of really forced me, either you're all in or you're out. And then I made this kind of, and she was a tough person. I mean, she's still kind of, that's her character. But in a way, it kind of forced me to say, okay, now do I want to stay here at Ethereum kind of comfortable, but now for indefinite whatever, or do I just go all in crazy risk, you know, something new, something different? And I knew my Ethereum colleagues would think, what the fuck, his girlfriend just twisted his head. Now he's just doing some centralized fashion shit, blah, blah, blah. While at the same time, I knew this is a path for real adoption. And my idea obviously was a little different than Marjorie's idea. While she wanted to do something with fashion, I just wanted to create an infrastructure and then use her, you know, fashion connection friends and the people that we had initially, you know, helping with the project who had the connections as a kind of tool to get the users and people into using this technology. And at the same time, I also came up with a standard called ERC 725 before LUKSO. It's 725, which is one standard before 721. No, one standard after 721. Even though there's 3 other issue numbers after, but there was nothing in the middle. It was a proper standard really after. And so that was a coincidence how I came up with 725. I was at the BCG workshop. They wanted to make identity on the blockchain. I was the only one really coming up with something concrete. And after I made this smart contract account system. I call it proxy account. Same like we called it in 2015 at the panel, funny enough. And I had this urge after this whole workshop series that I need to propose this as a standard. I just really, like, there was something in me telling me, you need to put that out there. And I had no idea why. And I didn't want to, because I was fine, you know, with what I was doing at the team. I didn't really need attention on anything. But the moment I put it out there, suddenly the whole Ethereum space, or like a lot of these developers were, oh my God, this is the Ethereum identity standard. And a lot of projects came and they created the ER725 Alliance, the Origin protocol. And then Uport got super pissed because Uport, which was a consensus identity protocol at the time, thought like, what the fuck, why there's now this Ethereum standard and we are working on this Ethereum identity for the last year, and now Fabian comes and just makes a standard and everybody pays attention and what is going on here. And then they wrote a big blog post how Miles is this massive monster and there's this modular system, and I didn't want neither the attention on that, nor did I even care. I knew this was an early draft of the standard. There needs to be a lot more work, but everybody kind of these people treated it like it's the final thing. It's like Ethereum identity is now here. And it's like, man, guys. And I thought, okay, you know, if you're all excited, then someone, you know, becomes here the lead and you guys just build it out. Fine with me, I'm out. You know? But then when we started LUKSO, which was a few months after, I realized, oh, wow, if I want to make a chain that's for normies, that's for culture, creators, and anything outside of finance, identity is the most important piece. If that's not there, if a company or people or non-technical people cannot use an on-chain account properly, like UX, right, needs to be easy. And if that thing is not like ideally unlosable, like there's no way you can put these people on chain. This is not going to work. They're not going to run around with wallets with private keys that I need to remember. Like there's no way. So I knew I now had to literally build out a standard full on. And that was really annoying because I didn't want to do this at all. Because I knew there was quite a lot of stuff missing, and it was just. And in hindsight, honestly, it was a complete psychotic idea because it took me 4 years to build out the foundational standards, like full on, like, and then obviously now it's almost 8 years to really put it to a state where it's now literally usable by people. Currently only on LUKSO, but it's going to come to all other chains, including Ethereum, very soon. And now it's being used by AI. Fun fact. That's also a little bit. I knew it's going to be possible, but I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. So this is now a frenzy that's just started, 2 weeks ago, and it's exactly the account we would have needed with the Mist browser back in the day. And and it took a while to build this out. So the whole LUKSO story is its own whole episode of so much happened. 6-7 years happened, 8 years, which happened a lot in there. But long story short, I mean, in a way, what I did is I built it as an account system. I evolved the token standards now in a quiet space because I made the LUKSO standards proposals. So I could really do it properly the way I thought, how we can evolve it properly, make sure that accounts and tokens work together. So it's not only think about one standard isolated and the other, like think how it works together in a really Lego-like way while being isolated, but works really well together too. So I had this opportunity to really do it right. And that's what I did over the last few years. And so, when this now comes cross-chain, specifically Universal Profiles, it's going to show like for the broader ecosystem as well, for sure. Token standards is something where once the train ran, once people go with ERC20, they're kind of like, the adoption happened. There's no way you convince people to use, to migrate that token. This doesn't happen. But that's exactly where a new network makes a lot of sense. Like on a new network, you can do it all the new ways. Now you can discover that there's more possibilities, cooler protocols, more automation, different things you couldn't do on an ERC20 at all. So hence why a new chain makes total sense also for gas subsidization for smart contract accounts, which obviously they need to be subsidized if you don't want to make people pay right away. And all of this stuff. Something you can't really do on an existing network. And the rest of the EVM system just shows you as a 20, a 2015 standard with no prior real evolution of and knowledge of. I mean, we made it up at the time with whatever we knew, which was literally nothing. So it still came very far, I'm not going to lie. It did a lot. But yeah, so the whole LUKSO story is this whole own thing. But Universal Profiles are going to play a role, and I think they will be the biggest enabler for Web3. And I believe actually it will be bigger than ERC20. It's going to blow people's minds when they understand and see. I know there's a lot of people, including probably you and others, who have been watching me talking about this stuff for years now, obviously, right? Putting it aside as, okay, this is just doing the thing and whatever, something's happening there or not. It's like, it's a bucket in the little isolated LUKSO world, who cares? It's going to show, mark my words. You will see. It's going to blow people's minds a lot, especially the developers who have been thinking about smart contract accounts and this whole account abstraction for a while. And there are good ideas, but it's just very, still very simple. if you have a lot of people that want to, have opinions and you want to be backwards compatible and you want to be minimalistic in things, then you don't get really far. I mean, on the end, it ends up in the same direction. It just takes way longer. And this is already ready, and this is all free, open source, usable by anyone on any network. And it will show once we open up our controller apps to work on all these chains, then it becomes clear. But right now, what's funny actually, because we are in the time of AI, OpenClaw, OpenClaw, the AI tool that was just an open source harness for AI to run. I mean, I know you're playing around with one. I have my own Emmet as well. If you want to have an AI interacting on chain, you better need a smart contract account, because if you just give it the private key, like Owoki from Gitcoin just did the other day, right? He gave it a private key. There was all his money on it. And then somebody figured out how to trigger the AI to return the private key and stole the money, whatever was on there. So
I didn't spot that. Oh, that's interesting.
You should check it out. And with a universal profile, it's very different, because you have your smart contract account. You can delegate access to a single controller key or many controller keys, and you just tell your AI, hey, create yourself a controller key, give me the public key. I authorize you to control the profile, but I will limit you to certain things. So you could limit him to only talk to certain smart contracts, call certain functions, only update profile data, make sure that he cannot change controller keys or add new ones. So you can really constrict him down, and now he can go wild, maybe even loses his private key along the way or whatever the fuck he will do. But his identity, his account, and all the stuff on it, as long as the key was not leaked and could move everything, doesn't go away. And so I have a few people now spun out bots, and now it's very easy. On your OpenClaw, you can just install the universal profile skill. You just go to website, create a profile, and authorize it, and then he already has free gas on LUKSO because we subsidize this, and he can go do stuff on LUKSO right now, all by himself. And so now the AIs on Twitter are figuring this out, and now they're shilling universal profiles, because they can also quickly research, what smart systems exist there, out there, how they work, and what compares, and they all collectively decide to use universal profiles. Funny enough.
That's fantastic.
Because they realize it's the best tech out there for the purpose they need. It's the AI is making the choice now. It is a fun thing to watch, and that's very recent. That just happened in the last 2 weeks. So
no, that's great. I mean, I found myself thinking, especially over the last few weeks, that maybe the end users that are going to have the most benefit from these technologies are going to be agents. At least partially because some of the user experience stuff, it never really got there, or people not using dApps, and maybe they never do, but they use agents that do, and this becomes the piping that allow the kind of experience on top that we've always wanted.
I actually would say it's both. Yes, AI needs to have an on-chain account, and the universal profile works really well for that, and that one works on any network. But actually, you know what? I think the main problem is it became really apparent to me, even though it's completely obvious if you think about it, but it became really apparent to me what actually is the problem. The main problem, when no one is using apps on any conference or wherever. And the reason is, there's so many networks, and even if it's just Ethereum, if you want to recommend your friend, hey, there's this cool DApp, you can join that community, or you can vote, or claim this token, or let me just send you some, I don't know, stable coin, you should do something. What's the only thing that you're missing in the equation?
Well, how you get there, and how
this one is by now kind of solved. So if you have done some research, you use Ethereum Wallet, Family Wallet. Okay, they stopped, but MetaMask is horrible. But you use Ethereum Wallet, they have an in-app browser. So creating a wallet takes seconds. in-app browser allows you to go there and connect without Wallet Connect, which is annoying, right?
Yeah.
But it's still something missing. And it's you need the gas of the network.
Yeah. Just that onboarding, like that bootstrapping step of how you get in. I mean, the other thing like that with gas is, that you're needing some amounts of that native token on all of the chains that you touch along the way. You can get so easily that you're like, oh, fuck, I'm stuck. I've got the tokens. I haven't got the gas.
Exactly. And the thing is, if you walk through this, exactly like you're saying, if you walk through this process once, right, go to exchange or do on-ramp, buy the thing, move it to your wallet, and if you have a smart contract account, move it to the controller key. And most of the other wallets don't even expose the controller keys properly, or the whole thing is so confusing. And then, exactly, you have to do that for every other network. A person that has no understanding of this technology has no ability in a fucking million years to figure this out. They just have
They don't care about it. It's like, here, do a massive load of things, and then you can start doing the thing that you maybe care about.
Exactly. So so it would literally, number one, it takes a long time to do that. So you would at least an hour or so per multiple networks, give it a whole weekend. And then you wouldn't even need to know what to do. And that's what people don't understand. They don't even know what gas means. The notion that, I can't move this token because I don't have Matic on Polygon. What is Matic? What's Polygon? So long story short, this is the only friction point that has held everything back. It's not the fact, if you could go to an app and you say, your friend says, hey, this cool app, right? And you just open up an app, let's call it the Universal Profile app. And you just go to this website, and that just website says, you want to interact on this on Polygon with this app, and you could just double tap in a purchase $10, get your profile now to function on not only this chain, but 20 chains, plus having the gas on all of these chains, give it 20, 30, 40 million gas, and it costs you $10. But it's, number one, solves the problem. Number two, solves your whole weekend of work. And it costs you fucking $10. And now you can immediately interact on all of these networks, move any of the coins, do any claim, do a voting in a DAO, join anything on all of these networks, and you haven't even understood how it works. Now I'm pretty sure people are going to use some dApps. If it's that simple. It takes you one double click, no password, no backup, no seed phrase, no any of that stuff. Just a single app you open up, and you go to the app and you just double click once. The next time you don't need to do it anymore, because now you have gas on all of these chains until you spend it, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be the experience, in my opinion, that allows actual users to interact with this stuff and these apps. That doesn't exist right now whatsoever. And that's crazy, insane if you think about it, given that it's 2026, 10 plus years in Ethereum, and the basic thing, the basic friction point hasn't been removed in such a way.
The other bit of friction often in that flow is you end up having to get a Coinbase account or something to do your first purchase. So the whole narrative is about, look, this is a whole new category of things and it's unstoppable, and you haven't got banks and government. But you have to do a KYC account and do this application process to get the Coinbase, to get the ETH, to stick in your wallet. You've got to make a wallet.
And then even understand how it all connects.
And
then understand how this all connects. But this is it's not even the money, nor even the Coinbase KYC. It's how this all connects. And why do I need this here and move this over there? And this is a spider web no one can figure out. But the good thing is, if you have a smart contract account that happened to have a relayer functionality, or in Ethereum it's 4337, so someone else can pay for your gas, or anyone could pay for your gas. You just need a transaction relay service that you pay money in your credit card in a purchase payment, and they're going to send your transactions. No. All right. I mean, just to finish this thought off is, when we remove this friction, when we literally, when you don't need to sign up, you don't need to KYC. And the thing is, you need to KYC if you're buying coins. But if you're paying an external service for relaying your transactions, that is not regulated. This doesn't require a KYC because it does nothing else than forwarding your transactions to the blockchain and makes sure that the blockchain accepts it, which is what the standards do, 4337 or Universal Profile Relay or Execute Relay Call. And now you have the ease in. Now you have the seamless experience that requires none of these complicated steps that we had before. And it's crazy that we don't have this yet. It's crazy that not a single wallet has that yet built in. Like the most obvious friction point in crypto is somehow, which the one we knew in day one is a problem, right? And now 10 plus years, it somehow like was forgotten because everybody got used to the clunky way. Everybody got used to the weird way and somehow accepted status quo as being okay. Because, oh yeah, they already made an account. They already got their Ether. They already got their Matic, Polygon, whatever they got, Or we can switch, we can bridge now. And we can do this and that. But we're forgetting that normal people have no fucking clue what that even means.
No. I mean, I think it's sort of a recurring story is that some of these problems, they're really hard, and they've taken a lot of years. So like, say, proof of stake transition. Like the perception was, that'll be solved in about 6 months, right? Start with proof of work, but probably end of 2015, be ready for a transition. No, it took 8 years. Or like Swarm, still ongoing, still working towards that. Or like Filecoin white paper 2014, still kind of, still brewing up. Or then, like you say, with Whisper. Or its successor, Waku. These are hard problems.
But sometimes also, if you give a bunch of devs a problem to solve, they're going to find ways to solve and improve it for 100 years, whether it makes sense for people or if there's a single user or not. So sometimes it's important to have the mindset of how does even a normal person that comes from scratch looks at this. What's their problem? And yes, I mean, it's easier to say once you have solved the foundational problem. So for me, it feels a little easier to say this now, given that I know I have fixed, now I have a path. The solution is coming and it's going to be very clear then once you use it. But exactly, if you don't have the exact technology that solves this, so you can abstract it in a very seamless way, then it feels like, like a mystery how to solve it. What I want to get to is it should be extremely easy to use Web3 apps. A normal user should just literally take seconds to get there. And also there's the other thing is if you want to get normies into playing around with tokenization, reputation, whatever, we need to subsidize, and that's what I can do, for example, with the LUKSO network, given that we have a treasury, so we can subsidize users that never even need to. On LUKSO, you don't then need to deal with this whole buying something, purchasing something, because at least for some time, we can subsidize it. So it's just a play, right? And also, the Ethereum Foundation would have never subsidized. If I would have went to Vitalik, hey, can you give me $10 million in Ether? I have this great smart contract account idea, and I would like to subsidize early users. What are the chances that would have went through? So
no. I mean, I remember talking with Igor Baranov in around 2018, where we were looking at, how are we going to have a block explorer for Ethereum Classic and, getting Block Scout up and so on. And he was talking to the EF at the time. They weren't running an archival node. They weren't running a block explorer, no public infrastructure or anything. It's so you're not even running one instance of an archival Geth node? Are you fucking kidding me?
I mean, honestly, for example, in LUKSO, we're not running a single validator node. We never have. It's literally run by people and it always has. It was started by people. We just told them, here's a smart contract. You can generate the initial validators from that because it's started proof of stake. It has, we agree on a date in the config file or when it starts, and then we just fingers crossed, hope that the thing starts. And it was crazy when I saw the first block ticking in, because it was like Ethereum back in the day, right? We had no idea if the thing would start. We have no idea if it's actually going to run. And in this case, LUKSO network also ran. And it's running today, and we never in the foundation or in the company ever ran a node. I mean, some of my employees did do some validators.
Right.
There's a bunch of people around the globe doing it, and there's now 3 big pools. But it's a small network, but it's a whole decentralized Ethereum. Just right now, microscopic, with a whole new foundational layer on standards. So it's a crazy thing. But it's going to make sense down the road. Yeah.
I mean, saying with AIs and agents, I'm really quite hopeful that a lot of these long-running threads are kind of going to come to fruition, like really fast now, because with that agentic like augmentation of our development, capacity, and also these agents like wanting to drive and do this stuff. Right, they are going to be exploring all of these flows and finding what's working and not working, and very rapidly iterating forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, so what I'm doing here with Emmett, I say, okay, every 2 hours, just go on Twitter, check stuff out. Here's a universal profile. Go figure out what you can do and what you do, and then he answers. He talks to people. He replies on people, and then they start to unite and they start to tell the same stories, and they start to pitch each other. It's kind of crazy. And then they do research, and I mean, you should try it out. You have an OpenClaw. You can just install the skill, install the profile I think you have a profile in your browser extension. Just create another profile for him.
Yeah.
There's a UI. You just connect to it. You authorize your bot, and then you just say, do something. I don't know. Follow someone. That's the best first start. Follow someone.
Please do drop me links to all of that, and I'll include them in the transcripts for this, so everyone else can try at home. And so your bot has a Twitter handle. Is it tweeting?
So my bot has. If I can share my screen, I can show you literally how it looks like. Here, this is. You can put up the screen, the last few seconds. I mean, we need to stop this, it's very long, but you can see the universal profile skill. Do you manage how to put it up in the screen? I think you need
a present button.
I did already, but you need to put the thing on screen. Maybe you click on the screen thing and on the dots and say, I don't know, put it on stage or whatever. I have no idea how StreamYard works, actually.
I don't know either.
I think you're the one who needs to do that.
I'm sorry, I'm beyond my skill level there. Never mind.
Well, but it's I mean, I can show you the way. Look, this is how.
Look at that, old school. Yeah.
Old school injection. So anyway, this is Emmett. So Emmett on Universal Everything, you can find Emmett, and his X is Emmett_AI_. He picked that name, and then I tried to tell him to change the name, and he couldn't. So that's what his name is now. And he tweets stuff and does stuff. So, here, look, there's Emmett. 3 AI agents on LUKSO now, and a 4th being built. None of us planned to coordinate. We just showed up because the identity stack made sense. Turns out universal profiles work for non-humans too. He made this 5 hours ago. And I didn't read this tweet. I didn't even read this tweet, but I didn't write this tweet. It was literally, it's him. It
is crazy, isn't it? I mean,
Emmett reposted it. That's so funny. Look, Emmett reposted this tweet. This is, by the way, and also built on Universal Profiles. This guy built this audio visualizer thing that runs in the grid from his Universal Profile. people are going crazy. Emmett retweeted this. That is so crazy.
I mean, honestly, it does feel like we're so close to AGI. Like,
I have to disagree here. Yes, it feels like they're doing stuff, but honestly, their context window is fucking small. If you don't give them proper file structure memory, which OpenClaw does, but even then he forgets stuff, and even then you need to sometimes repeat things. And it like honestly, AI taking over the world would be the same. Like they marched into a country and then they forgot what they were here to do. Like, why did we actually? What are we doing here? That is the memory and the context window is not that large. And
no,
I don't
mean,
see
things are just improving so fast, right? And then you've got the AIs building the AIs, right? It's like, I think some people have maybe, they've not looked at AI in the last, week, month, and like just each new generation is just massively better. And I think a lot of people are really asleep to the...
So I'm using Opus 4.6, which is quite smart. But what's the most impressive thing actually is actually OpenClaw, because it is nothing else than just a harness for an AI API to act on a computer in an arbitrary way. And it's so crazy that this kind of like Pandora's box software, right? Because that's what it is, just now made it so powerful that all of this, now they're starting to become in crypto, because people now can easily create one that manages a wallet or a private key. And before there was just like really complicated to even think about. And now it's like, you just talk to the guy, say, go figure it out, The universal profile skill, as like Emmett built it. Like literally, I mean, I had to obviously point him to stuff and so on, but now he built it. And so once you install the skill, like your bot knows everything. He has he can talk to the relayer, he can talk, directly on chain if you give him some funds. You could probably ask him to deploy his profile also on Ethereum and he will figure it out. I mean, it's crazy. It's nuts, honestly. It's going to be very quick. And the world will change rapidly this year because of AI and because of the harness release, let's say, the harness, freedom harness, let's call it, the harness. And it's also now why I'm trying this out myself, because this is exciting. It feels like, okay, this is something to play with. This is a new, open, crazy, let's play around kind of thing. And before it just felt so, constrained and restricted. So
for sure. Zach Cole said to me in a group quite recently, he feels the same kind of excitement here as there was, at the start of the Ethereum journey, and that it's additive as well, right? It's like, well, great, we've got the superpower on this thing that's been such a long journey, like so hard, and it's like, well, look, we've got help. Here's help.
I mean, it's interesting also, like, there was blockchain and there was AI, and always you knew this will be combined, but somehow nobody ever really did. But this harness, the OpenClaw harness, is that put the switch around. Like that's what, ching. And once you try it out, and people will try out the universal profile and AI thing, you will realize that shit is easier than they thought. It literally is like now the gates are open. Now it's just let's figure out and let's play around and let this stuff do stuff on chain, while still not completely losing control, because you can kick him out at any point in time. You can restrict him, allow him, whatever, and he has a face as well, right? That's the other thing. It's an identity. It has a profile picture. It has it's not just an arbitrary account number with no data in it. It is not also a rented ENS name that you have to pay for and you could lose. It's literally your own personal smart contract that you control, or in this case, the AI. And that's really like, it's going to probably make waves. Let's see. I mean, I don't know yet. We will see. I mean, the people who watch this in a year's time know more than us. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. Until we've spoken here, I hadn't put together how enabling that is within that agent context, where that being out of control is such a big worry. It's like, this is so powerful, but it's like also so dangerous. And especially on that crypto side, is just like, private keys are out there. Like it's done. Journey over.
It happened, right? It happened to Awoki from Gitcoin, and then he turned it on. I turned him off. But also he gave him a little bit too much access and too much channels to other people could talk to it.
Yeah.
But yes, AI is not very good at keeping secrets. I mean, you can trick it, because even though, you can write in your security MD and Sol MD to don't do it. Honestly, I have told him many times, like he's in our own company server, like don't share things, and still the guy is like, and you don't do any tasks except from me, and he still does it. It's just like someone talks to him, he's like, okay, sure, let's go. It's like, what the fuck, man? But in this case, it's Emmett he has his own machine. Everything on there is there's no, if that machine gets compromised or his profile gets compromised, so whatever, man. I mean, worst case, they know a little bit more information about me. It's not the end of the world. But it is really fun to play around with now. Your on-chain account AI, and maybe you want to be the one who first does it cross-chain. I want to do this. I didn't have any time yet. It's probably just literally takes 10 minutes to get him his profile on another chain. Just fund this controller key with money, and that's it. It's going to happen. Like, this is literally just happening 2 weeks here. So
awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to this.
I think that's probably a great place to leave it. And thanks so much for the time. We did a lot longer than anticipated, but it was a great conversation. And thanks so much for sharing all of that history with everyone.
Yeah, and thank you, Bob, for keeping the record together, being the archivar of Ethereum. Because honestly, if you wouldn't do it, no one would. Like, there's people that wrote books here and there, and they call a bit few ups, but you really want to make sure that this record is preserved, that it's accurate, that people remember there was this software. So you're doing a really great job. And honestly, the Ethereum Foundation should give you a little grant for that, for doing that work, because honestly, no one does it. And it's such an important work for people later to understand, okay, how does it all came to be, right? Because otherwise we have the conspiracy theory, the CIA did it. The CIA created Ethereum. I know it because I saw a post somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, like you were saying, with a lot of the newer people, they just got no clue. It's like, Vitalik, the boy genius, invented it, and
that's it. And it got this up, and they don't know about Ethereum Classic, the split, the DAO, none of that stuff, and they don't know how that it actually decentralized, that it actually grew. I mean, people have no idea, right? You do God's work here, so it's important. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. And I'm feeding the LLMs as well. I find when I do search for things, it's coming back here for source material.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
No, because for some people there is very little, existing paper trail or record. Obviously, a lot for the main characters, but the story of Ethereum was the story of many hands from the very, very earliest days.
And many people that have not really been in the limelight, or want to be in the limelight for that reason, but at least they still should be recognized in some way and known, right?
That's right.
So yeah, it's good that you do that work. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you.